I apologize that I've been like a conference whip to everyone, trying to keep things under control with the agenda and time management. Now it's my turn, so if I go too long, you just knock on, on the glass. I'll hear it. I'll try to be really brief. We had wonderful speakers. They all gave their presentations of the global arena of the problems we are facing, all this changing global order, the challenges, not so much about solutions, I'm afraid, but still we're working on it. In my presentation, I am going down on earth and bringing us here to this region, to this country, to the Balkans, or so-called Western Balkans, trying to present the perspective of these multipolar changes as the way we experience them and see them, and even try to join the global developments to catch up actually with the changing reality. Because often I have a feeling that we are stuck somewhere in the past with a glorious idea about EU as a promised land, as heaven on earth, something that is quite unrealistic and doesn't exist anymore. So let's go down on earth and see how things look in this region and around it. So the title of my presentation contains this fuzzy word or concept of Western Balkans, something that does not exist. It was invented, if I'm not wrong, by the Austrian presidency of the European Union in 1998. It is not a geographical term. It has no common history, traditions. It is a changeable, actually, geography of invented region that is at the same time prevented to become a region, to prevent it to establish better connections, development, and open borders, and all these various ideas. Why? Because we are under the Western grip. The Western power sphere of interest is all over the region. And as someone who is quite old to remember the former times, the former Yugoslavia, I can say that there is a sort of dialectics. Yugoslavia fell apart not only due to its internal contradictions that were real, but also due to the interference of the Western powers. At the end of the Cold War, 1989, and then new geopolitical thinking, and Yugoslavia was not necessary anymore. So many of the Western powers were now trying to pacify us, or to say, we are helping you move out from Balkanization, or being the Balkans, from Europeanization. They're trying to divorce us from our natural identity of being people from the Balkans, which is a neo-colonial or mission of civilizational transformation of these primitive Balkan people. So the Western Balkans, I am using is under question marks, missed actually this Fukuyama moment of peace dividend, the end of history. Why? Because Yugoslavia fell apart in a bloodshed, in collapse that was not under our control, but controlled by the others. And this dialectical circle actually brings us in 2024 again at the edge of some new kind of fragmentation, possibilities of internal conflict. Why? Because the West would not like to see any of these countries getting out of the mainstream of the geopolitical thinking from the Washington administration mostly, because European Union is just a civilian face, nice face of NATO and Washington, nothing more. It does not exist, as I said before. So 30 years later, we became, as a region, as a former Yugoslavia, let's put it bluntly, the desert of transition, of privatization, of the neoliberal economic medicines, the shock doctrine, then on that way we lost our self-respect. We lost the respect for what we used to be. And as our Chinese colleague yesterday, Professor Zhang, mentioned, sometime years ago, Yugoslavia was an example, shining example, even for China and many other countries in the world. Nowadays, we are people, and I think Radmila Nakarada mentioned that are ashamed of our own past. We threw out the baby along with the water, to rephrase Marx's statement. So we lost what we had in terms of human rights, social rights, workers' rights, women's rights, ideology, if you want, of socialism, of human society, in order to catch up with the West. The West became the state builder. There is a wonderful book that I quote often by David Chandler, Empire in Denial. So the West actually transformed, they said, no, we are not empire, we are not taking care of you, but we are here to help you. These processes are called state building, international state building, a nice name for neocolonialism. So we are deprived from the sovereignty, even from the right to bring our own constitution. We do not have our foreign policy. Why? Because we do not have our domestic policy, because we are not even allowed to make a government of our own liking. Why? Because we do not have this fantastic mixture of election plus selection, or vice versa, selection plus elections. Why? Because the selection is made by the Western actors. They select the future leaders. We heard that by Victoria Nuland in 2014, who is going to be next Ukrainian Prime Minister. We experience that every single day or every single electoral process here. So these guys are already known, or they just exchange their seats, so there is no real selection. Macedonia, as any other country in this region, has much more potential in terms of political offer or citizens' engagement, but it is not allowed. Macedonia experienced even a colored revolution. The government, legitimate government, I didn't like that government, to be honest. It was not according to my beliefs, but still, it was a legitimate one. It was thrown down by colored revolution. So we come to this new phenomenon, and actually contribution to the political dictionary, stabilitocracy. So the West selects and helps these people be elected during the elections, impose them on the power seats, and then run the policy, domestic and the foreign one. So when I talk about how to catch with this changing world with cooperative multipolar system, I simply don't know how. That's why I organized this conference, because this is one of the ways how to get freedom of thought, freedom of action, freedom to have a vision, like Jan Oberg mentioned yesterday. So this is an act of resistance, believe me. This very fact, this conference is an act of resistance. We got together to show to ourselves, to prove to ourselves and to others. They boycott us. There is nothing in the news about this conference, but we still have the video records we are going to share on YouTube and everywhere, and we will be grateful if you do help us in this endeavor, to show that there are thinking people here, and elites are one thing. They are under Brussels umbrella and Washington umbrella, but the people, the ordinary citizens, they finance this conference. I owe them gratitude, like many others help, of course, but the citizens with the small donations, this is a grassroots action, actually. And I'm so proud that these people recognized the significance of event that is terrible in the eyes of all the officials, including the officials of the state, St. Cyril and Methodius University in Skopje, and our own faculty. So we are in a good company of dissidents. Let me just try to wrap up here. Obviously, after 30 years of losing everything that we once had or could have made, even despite these wars, terrible crimes that we feel terribly about it, we did not go through reconciliation. We did not go through bringing this region together again for cooperation, not for reviving of Yugoslavia, but just to be a decent place for living. So now, 30 years later, we are on the wrong side of history. The foreign policy imposed by the West asked the Macedonian government and the governments in the region to seek enemies. They financed the NGOs to seek for fake information and malicious influences. And of course, they produce Russophobia, xenophobia, and all kinds of phobias you can imagine. So once Yugoslavia was a part of a non-alignment movement, we were looking at the world. I remember my childhood and when I was young, then we were looking at Palestine as a friend or people from Africa and Asia and everywhere. We did not look for enemies. Nowadays, our children are taught in the schools. We tried with peace education, but we're so-so. We are on the wrong side of history, and actually, we are on the list of not friendly countries of some of our supporters, and even great countries that supported Macedonia when it was the most difficult in 1991. Russia is one of them, of course. China as well. Not to mention other members of the permanent members of the Security Council. So what are we going to do? I think Radhika mentioned how important it is for us to stick together, to share our opinions, to get to know each other. And I really thank you all for your attendance, for your attention, for coming here, traveling long ways. I'm afraid that the multipolar world is growing and developing much faster than we can even imagine that. But talking about that is something that is our only asset to get out of this captured mind. Our minds are captured. So we feel like infantile children because somebody else teaches us all the way. This is democracy, this is human rights, you know nothing, you should start from the very beginning. No, I would say, like somebody else said yesterday, no, it was enough, and we have strength, intellectual strength, and we should use Gramsci and the idea of cultural hegemony in opposite way to turn it into our benefit. So not to capitulate to this framework that is imposed by the West, which is in decline, which is militarizing not only itself, militarizing to the death, but also militarizing the others. The European Union, the Balkans is already in the arms race. We are buying from Macron expensive flight jets because they are dealers, they are arms dealers. They don't care about peace or Europe as a soft power. It doesn't exist anymore. Thank you. I'll stop here. I hope I was not too long.